Welcome to the Reconstruction Journal with your hostess, Juliana Coles. The first step in the Reconstruction Journal is finding your book. So what I want to talk about first is altered books. Essentially, the Reconstructed Journal is an altered book. We're taking a book that pre-exists, that's already been published as something else, and we're going to remove the pages and reconstruct it. I have a few examples here of just altering a book, and any of these would be fine for our Reconstructed Journal. One of the things about altering a book that's been a lot of a challenge for me and a struggle is when I'm altering a book, I get distracted by the images that are already there. I want to utilize them, and I find myself getting stuck, and then I have to turn the page. Oh, not that one. I don't know what to do with that yet. Not that one. This particular book is from a series of 4 small books on the moon, and this one was about the werewolf. And the cool thing about it is it had black pages. You can see here that it had black pages. So any book that has text is going to be, in terms of altering a book, it's easier because you're not attached. It's just words. And this will be fine for our process as well. When we reconstruct our journals, we're actually going to remove all of the pages and maybe leave about this much, let's say an inch. So this is going to be really cool, is that center part, because it's black, it's got text. When we talk about this center, it may or may not matter. This reconstructed journal that you're going to create may be an artist's book. Once you reinsert your pages, you might think, wow, this is cool, I'm done. And maybe that's all you're going to do. I've had plenty of students who've done that, and it's an amazing book as is. If you're like me, you're going to be decorating it, which means you're going to lose all of that because I work all the way across. So essentially, this center doesn't matter to me. So I'm going to be talking about some different books here. Maybe you want to work with a theme. The book, The Darkness, could be your theme. Maybe it's like an Indiana Jones kind of adventure book. Maybe you're going to alter or reconstruct your grandmother's cookbook. So you could work within a theme, or you could just grab any old book. So this one I'm also working in now. I get a lot of my books from the main library public sale that they have every 6 months. So this one I'm altering. And you can see, here's this strip that we were talking about, that center that we're going to keep. So this book is an altered book and partially a reconstructed book. So I've got different pages that I've inserted here. And these were, like this one was a page, just a figure drawing that I added in. And I added, I'm going to add some postcards. I've got other things like here, this was actually a page from another journal. I like the tab, and I inserted that. So that's something for you to think about as we move along. We're actually going to be making our pages from scraps and remnants, but there's no reason why you can't, every few pages, add something else, like a folder or something with a tab, something that you made but didn't really know what to do with, and you want to put that in. And it can also be more personal. You can add photographs, scrapbook items. So here's another book that I'm altering. And one of the things about this book, and you'll see as you get working, this is falling off, this spine is breaking. That's just going to happen. We're going to do some things to protect the spine, but it's probably not going to work. No book is meant, like when we work in these, they're open. No book is really meant to be that way. And so every time we're pressing down, we're damaging that spine, and you just have to get used to that. So that's just another altered book. Again, the size, it appeals to me. The paper appeals to me. Those are why I make some of the choices that I make. So now we're going to look at some of my reconstructed journals, and these are newer books. Those books are old, but I'm still working on them. Some of them are new. This one's pretty old. And this one, I didn't put this in as a reconstructed page. I put this in afterwards, and I just hinged it in. We'll talk more about that later. So that's something you can do too. As you make the project, don't worry about perfecting it. Don't worry about making it exact, because you can always add to it and change it later. You can add tabs, which I love to do. This is another one I just hinged in, but I could have done it as a reconstructed page. I love like file folders. This was from a cookbook, so I inserted that later. And here's one that I started to make and then kind of stopped. So you can see, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be cutting them all down. And I started to insert some of my pages. One of the things here in this book, you can see where it's stapled and it's glued and it's sewn. So the problem with this book is that it doesn't really open all the way, because it's also sewn in the middle, not just here. And I think I just decided with this book I didn't really want to work in it, even though the cover says pirate. So this one, who knows, maybe I'll do something else with it, but right now it's on hold. Here's another little book I made. This is a kid's book, and you can see when a spine has this thickness here, you know it's not just sewn on the edge, it's cut in a little bit, which means it's not going to lay flat. It's always going to have this edge, which makes it hard to work in, because the pages are always going to pop out. And so you can pick the correct book. I'm going to show you guys some more samples of which books not to pick. But in the end, you have to pick the book that speaks to you, that's choosing you, that you love. And then you'll just make it work. Because I have plenty of books, you know, like this one that I worked in, that this was a mess. And I still love them. I love working on them. So this book has maybe, 8 pages, which is great, because it just means I can finish it sooner. These little kids' books are great. Here's another one of these kids' history books. And this one I wanted to share because this one I'm doing a little bit of both. I'm inserting old pages, like this one is the Andrew Jackson book, and I inserted some of the pages from the Christopher Columbus book into my center here. I also have some of my reconstructed pages in here. So this is a great book that I believe Tisha Moore gave us when we were teaching at Art Fest. And so this is a cool book. It's just like short and long. Look at all these pages. And so I've inserted my pages in here. And this is going to be a really fun book to work in. I can work in it sideways like this, but I could also work like this and have it be long. So you can change your book orientation. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is how you're choosing a book. As we saw, this book is sewn a little bit farther down than we would like, but it's actually still not that bad of a choice. So this book, for me, the problem would be, that it doesn't really lay flat. And that means that when you're working on it, the pages will flip back on you. But I had a book that was like this, and the binding was such a struggle, having to keep it open. But when I finished that book, I realized that year in my life had been a struggle, and my book was really a metaphor for that. So again, I'm trying to give you some examples of choose this, choose this. But ultimately, you've got to choose the book that feels right for whatever reason. And then I was talking earlier about this book with you guys, and I was saying about, the binding on the side, how some of them will pull over, and this one's all ridgy here in the center, and all the pages are like that. And it was really annoying to work in this trough here, but that was part of the process of this book, and ultimately this is one of my favorite books of all time. So you kind of have to go with what you're going with. I have this book that I got in Ecuador some years ago, and I love that it's square. It's pretty thick. It's, this is a lot of pages, which feels a little intimidating. There's like 1 million signatures in here. But the good news is that the pages are really, really thick. It was an old calendar, and it already sort of almost has that center thing, and some of these I've even cut out, some of the images. So this is going to be really easy for me to cut down, and with the pages so thick, it's not as intimidating as if the pages were thin in this many pages. So I'm excited to work on this. I don't usually work in a square book format, so that's going to be exciting. This book is called The Passionate Sightseer, and I love the texture of the pages. It's fairly thick, dry and matte, not slippery. Even the images are not slippery. Some of the older books are better choices. The signatures in here are really awesome. I can see that they're sewn in, so they're going to be very easy for me to work on. When I open it up, I can see that the stitching goes all the way back to the spine. So for me, I know that this is going to be a good choice in terms of, sometimes they're sewn and glued. Sometimes they're just glued. Sometimes they're sewn and stapled and sewn again. So you just really have to look at how the pages are attached. And even then, you're going to find the perfect book, and there are going to be all kinds of problems with it. So what do I always say? Pick the book that picks you, because in the end, everything's going to be a challenge. I like this kid's book, this dictionary. The pages are great. So when I cut these pages out, because remember, we're not going to be using the pages. The pages themselves don't matter at all. And when I cut these out, I can use these pages for something else. So that's going to be really fun too. Again, the signature goes all the way back to the spine. It's not glued again. It's not stapled again. It's not sewn again. It's just working really great. This book is similar to that other book. They might be a nice set. This one is the dictionary. This one is the Golden Treasury Book of Knowledge. So these pages are really nice, and I can cut them out and use them for collage material. Okay, so I hope this is helpful in helping you to find and choose your book for the Reconstruction Journal. When we reconstruct our journal, it's such a fast and easy project. You may want to do 2 or 3 at a time, so go ahead and choose more than one book, or one. however many you choose is great, but I think you could probably choose 2 or 3, and then we're going to make enough pages to really fill them up. Thanks for watching.